ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലല്ലോ. ഓഫായോ? ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലല്ലോ.
യെസ് സാർ.
ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
ഹലോ സാർ.
ഒന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
തുടങ്ങിയിട്ടില്ല സാർ.
അതാണ് ഞാൻ കരുതി മ്യൂട്ടായിരിക്കുന്നു.
സെഷൻ തുടങ്ങാൻ പോകുന്നുള്ളൂ.
ഓ ശരി ശരി. അതെ.
ഹലോ ഷെഫീർ സർ, ബിജു സാറ് ലൈനിലുണ്ടോ? റെഡി ആണോ സർ?
യെസ്, റെഡി റെഡി.
പ്രിൻസി മാം?
I'm ready, Chitra miss.
Shall we start, ma'am?
Yeah, let's do.
Okay.
At 2 p.m. let's start.
Okay, ma'am. Shall we start, ma'am? Princy ma'am?
Let's start the program.
So Biju sir, left right yellow.
So, let me see.
No.
Biju sir, are you there?
Biju sir?
Biju sir? Biju sir?
I think he's left.
Okay, let's wait for 1 minute.
Okay.
Chitra. Hello, Chitra. Hello, Chitra.
ഒരു മിനിറ്റ് സർ.
Is there?
ഷഫീർ സർ.
Yes, is there.
Okay. Let's start our session. Okay. Good afternoon, one and all. Myself, Chitra, Assistant Professor, Research Department of Commerce, MES Asmabi College, Kodungalur. We are all living in a new normal stage. The education system across the globe has undergone a tremendous shift in the wake of COVID-19, and the terms like webinar has become a part of our academic life. Like too many challenges, this pandemic also raised many opportunities. This international webinar is a second in the series organizing by the Research Department of Commerce, MES Asmabi College, bringing in a very important topic to the discussion table. The intellectual property rights or patents have become a vital or both business, enterprises, and academia. Nevertheless, most of us do not have a concrete understanding or how to file an international patent application. The focus of this webinar is filing an international patent application. Here, we have an eminent resource person, I would say the apt person to discuss this topic, Dr. Shahina Abdullah, the patent attorney, Hague, Netherlands. It's our privilege that we got such an incredible personality in this area to speak on this topic. Before moving to our official function, let's remind some instructions. The participants are requested to keep their cameras off and mic muted in order to save your bandwidth. And not for that, for our smooth functioning. And don't click on the presenting button. It makes your screen visible to all others in this meet. And if you have any queries during this presentation session, you can post it in the chat box, or otherwise you can message in the WhatsApp group. We, the coordinators, are always for your help. At the discussion session, you can unmute your mic and ask your queries, whatever you can. And the participants are requested to fill the feedback form, which will distribute after the presentation session, at the discussion session, and the certificates will be issued only on the basis of that feedback form. Okay, thank you. So please try to avoid the presenting screen and try to always keep muted your microphones and off your cameras. So let's move to the official session. I am wholeheartedly welcome our beloved head of the department, Dr. Princey Francis, for the welcome speech. Sir, ma'am, please.
Okay, thank you, Chitra ma'am. Honorable Principal, Dr. A. Biju, Key Resource Person of the Day, Dr. Shahana Abdullah, Patent Attorney, The Gate, Coordinators of the webinar, Dr. Sophia K.M. and Ms. Chitra P., Assistant Professors of Commerce, and my colleagues, and all participants in and outside India. A warm good afternoon and good morning to one and all. We all are facing pandemic due to the community spread of COVID-19. We have to survive at any cost, and we have to follow the government initiatives like using mask, sanitization, social distancing, isolation, quarantine, and also we have to provide psychological support to our students as well as our surroundings. Anyhow, we should be more energetic and active at home, and we should be more engaged in our research activities, paper publications, and also in developing new ideas or products to move to patent. And here, let me share my experience in patent. Last year, I developed one product as part of anti-plastic campaign under Entrepreneurial Development Club. Then I got a lot of appreciation. Then many of them advised me to apply for patent. Then I tried, but I could not move further. That is only because of the ignorance in the filing of patent. Because it needs lot of legal formalities we have to complete, and we have to prepare synopsis of the product. That is also I could not trace it. Then it needs some external help to complete all the formalities. It is quite expensive, about 25,000, etc. I hope this webinar would help us to know more about patent and how to apply for patent in an international perspective. And first of all, in this webinar, I would like to welcome our dear principal, Dr. A. Biju. He's so supportive and guiding all of us in the academic excellence. So, sir, I welcome on behalf of Research Department of Commerce. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. Thank you.
Then here we have an eminent personality as our resource person, Dr. Shahina Abdullah. She is an apt person. She is an patent attorney, the gate, and he has number of experience of giving by handling this much patent issues and all applications. So this webinar help us to think about patent and how to give an initiative to apply for patent. Ma'am, on behalf of Research Department of Commerce, MES, Asmabi College, and my own behalf, let me welcome to the webinar. Ma'am, welcome. Then next I would like to welcome and congratulate the coordinators of the webinar, Dr. Safia KM and Ms. Chitra P, Assistant Professors of Commerce to the webinar. Welcome both of you. Last but not least, okay, thank you. Last but not least, let me welcome my colleagues and all participants across the globe through this Google Meet as well as YouTube live stream. I welcome once again all of you to this webinar. Thank you. Thank you, Chitra.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite our principal, Dr. Biju A, for the presidential address. So please.
Okay. Respected resource person of the day, Dr. Shahana Abdullah, Head of the Department of Commerce, Dr. Prince Francis, coordinators of this webinar, Srimati Chitra and Dr. Safia, participants from various institutions. Good afternoon, everybody. Earlier, research is an integral part of higher education, but now, in addition to research, innovation is also a part of higher education. Now, colleges are promoting innovation and innovative ideas of students. MHRD is now starting institutional innovation centers in colleges. In the accreditation process of NAC, is giving due importance to intellectual property activities like number of patents registered, innovation ecosystem of the institution, number of IPR programs organized, etc. in educational institutions. IP is the most basic form of property because man uses nothing to produce it other than his brain. We have rules and laws to keep our properties or wealth. The intellectual property created by human intellect also have the right and laws to keep the wealth earned by creations of human brain, like innovations, inventions, and creations. The basic reason for intellectual property protection is that a man should own what he brings into being. If what he produces can be taken away from him, he is no better than a slave. Intellectual property includes patents, industrial designs, copyrights, artworks, trademark, trade secrets, integrated circuits, geographical indications, protection of plant varieties, etc. Patents are granted for new innovations, I think. The patent is an exclusive right to prevent unauthorized third parties for making, using, offering for sale, selling, or importing the patented product. There are process patents and product patents. We have many doubts about how we can file a patent. What are the conditions and requirements for filing a patent? What is the difference between Indian patent and international patent? Is it possible to patent our research works? I hope this webinar will definitely clarify these doubts. In addition, how copyright differ from patent? Copyright is granted for original literary works such as novels, poems, films, music, artistic work like drawing, paintings, and architectural designs, and computer programs and softwares. Rights related to copyright include those of performing artists in their performances, producers of phonograms in their recordings, and broadcasting in their radio and television programs. We must also copyleft. Trademarks which promote economic efficiency, promote healthy competition, help to improve product quality, helps consumers will be in a position to identify high and low quality products. Some products from certain geographical areas possess quality or reputation like Malabar chips, Aramla Kannadi, Alfonsa mango, Kolhapuri chappals, Darjeeling tea, known as geographical indications. Anyhow, IPR, why promote and protect intellectual property? There are many reasons. The progress and well-being of humanity rest on its capacity to create and invent new works in the areas of technology and culture. The legal protection of new creations encourages the commitment of additional resources for further innovation. The promotion and protection of intellectual property supports economic growth, creates new jobs and industries, and enhances the quality and enjoyment of life. The intellectual property system helps strike a balance between the interest of inventors and the public interest, providing an environment in which creativity and innovation can flourish for the benefit of all. We are very much thankful to Dr. Shahana Abdullah for accepting our invitation for this webinar. I congratulate Department of Commerce for organizing this webinar, especially an important area for all disciplines. Special thanks to coordinators Srimati Chitra and Dr. Safia for all the efforts they have taken for arranging this webinar. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now it's the time for our resource person. Ma'am, with all pleasure, we invite you for the presentation. Ma'am, please.
Thank you. First of all, a question. Can everyone hear me properly?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar and also giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge and experience, which I think might be useful to some of you. Yeah, so patent system is a very broad topic. So I'm not going to touch all the procedure aspects of it, but I think I'll try to touch like what's interesting for a layman perspective. So let me present my presentation. Yeah. So as you know, the intellectual property as the principle.
Ma'am, just a minute. Ma'am, the presentation is, yes, it's now coming. Okay, ma'am.
Okay, yeah. The principle just explained, intellectual property is an umbrella term which includes quite a lot of elements. Generally, people classify it as a soft IP, which is like a soft IP includes copyrights, trademarks, or designs, registered designs, or unregistered designs, trade secrets, which are considered as a bit less technical and also a bit more soft. So they call it soft IP. And I would mainly touch on the topic of patenting procedure, which they consider as a hard intellectual property, which is more technical and which is a bit more procedural. So in the coming minutes, I'll be more focusing on the idea of patenting and how the procedure is and how which routes you can take in to get to grant a patent. Yeah. So yeah, as you all know by now, the patent gives an exclusive right to the patentee for an invention. So basically, these inventions are quite technical in nature. It can be an invention in the field of physics, chemistry, or biology, or in a therapeutic field. So as you know, the inventions in physics are like the well-known thing is like the iPhone or the Samsung phones, or really industrial stuffs. And the one in chemistry or in the therapeutical, it's more in the pandemic period, it's quite relevant. The vaccines, the finding new medicines, medications, and the tools to cure. So these are the things. These are the mainly the therapeutic things. So the patent gives an exclusive right for the patentee. It allows the patentee to stop others to imitate it or commercially exploiting his idea or his invention. So it's quite valuable too for the forwarding of his business. So that's why the companies or individuals really value this as an asset. Once granted, the patent gives a monopoly to the patentee for a specific period of time, 20 years in this case. So a granted patent gives 20 years of monopoly of his invention. And in return of this monopoly, the patentee has to disclose his invention to the public, so that after this 20-year period is finished, the common man can, the public can use it as a free access data. So in exchange of this sanctioning monopoly, the patentee has to disclose to the public whatever his invention is. As it was just told, the patent can be in different entities. So it can be a product patent, for example, a patent of a solar cell, for example. It's a product, it's an apparatus. It can be a product by use. So for example, it's already an existing product, but then when it is used in a special way, it becomes an innovative element. So you can patent the use of a product if it is new, and you can also patent processes for example, a special way of manufacturing, way of manufacturing, for example, a paint or a chemical, or making an instrument. So it can be a process-based patent also. So each of these patents have different strength of protection. For example, a product has a high level of protection because you can basically use this patent to stop anyone from making it, using it, or even selling it. So these are the different ways you can protect your invention. Patent is actually an asset. For example, it's like it's an intangible asset. So for example, it's like you buy a property. So the patent can be, it's a legal document, so it's a legal right. So it can be sold to someone. You can buy patents if you're interested to have that. You can lease it or rent it for a specific period of time. That's how the for example, companies license it to third parties if you have the right. And for example, you can also pass it under a will to your successors. I can write a will to give it to someone as my successor. And it can be assigned to different companies or entities or even persons. So it's basically an asset. It's a property. So that's why it's valuable in business. You might be thinking why people patent or why companies patent. Why is it so important? So Basically, it's a thing which I told now, it's an exclusive right. So you get 20, if it's granted, you get 20 years of right of that invention. So you can basically stop others from the important thing. And on top of that, you also, for example, if you're making a vaccine, you are spending several years investing money, investing time and resources in developing this product. And once it is produced, you want to get maximum return of your investment, and you want to be the first player to get this return. So having a patent allows you to be first in the market, so that you get your return of investment. So that's one thing. For example, you have an amazing patent, but for example, I don't want to do anything with that. I'm not going to manufacture anything, but I have this patent. So what you can do is you can license it. That's what generally the universities or academic institutions do. They make universities, for example, they have a bunch of patents, but they won't be making or manufacturing the products. But what they do is they license it to, or even sell it to third parties, or they help to have spin-off companies where they license it for next, for example, 10 years. You can use this patent, and then we get a license fee. So that can be a source of income for your company, or if you are an individual, it can be an income for you. Another way you can use patent is as a negotiating power. For example, you are a small company and you are in the process of merging with a bigger company. Or for example, you are a company and you're acquiring another company. So if you have a strong patent portfolio, it gives you it's basically an asset, right? So it gives you a good negotiation power. So you can use it as to get a good deal, or yeah. So that gives your value. That's one thing. And also having a very good patent portfolio, it gives a very good image of your company, and it increases your market value. For example, there are people who want to invest in your company, or you want to invite collaborators, or you want to invite partners. You even need to join consortiums and look for funding or future research. So if you have a strong patent portfolio, the value of your the market value of your company or your institutions. So that's why people patent. So different people have different motivations. Why do they want to patent? Yeah, and there are different criteria to have a strong patent, but there are mainly three important ones, which are: first one, it should be new. Yeah, so it should be a new invention, which means it should not be existing when you are going to file it. So that's a holy grail of having a good patent. To get a good patent, it should be a new subject that it's not available to public anymore. And then it should be inventive. So which means an inventiveness means it's a bit different from novelty in patent field. For example, it should not be an easy modification of an existing technology. For example, if I can say, if you have two parts and there is already an existing patent on how to connect them by glue, so that that patent is already existing, and you find a way of connecting them by screwing them together, which is a different way of connecting them, but then it's an obvious choice. So usually those kind of obvious alterations which a skilled person can think of, those are not considered as inventive. So to be inventive, it should not be obvious to skilled person. That's one of the criteria which is assessing in finding the value of the patent. And obviously, it should be industrially applicable. It should not be. It should be possible to manufacture. That's the third criteria. So these are the main three things which the examining committee will check when you file for a patent. It should be new or novel. It should be inventive, and it should be industrially applicable. And there are several other criteria as well. So I just mentioned something called prior art. You might be thinking, what's a prior art? This is a very important term in patent field. Prior art is something which is already existing. So if I'm going to file a patent today, everything which is available to the public until yesterday, until today, is considered as a prior art. So if it is existing, even if it is your own disclosure, that can damage your application which you are going to file today. So the prior art, checking prior art is very important. It determines whether you are able to get a patent. If it's already existing, then you're not going to get a patent on that. So which means you should be very careful in, if you have an idea, if you have an invention, you should be very careful to whom you are talking it about. So you should generally have a confidentiality agreement before talking to important persons, without which it becomes an prior art, and then you are not anymore able to file a patent application based on that invention. So if you have an idea, be careful before disclosing it. And this disclosure can be in any format. It can be an oral presentation. For example, if you're going in a train and there are like a bunch of people sitting in the train and you're disclosing your invention to a person sitting next, that is a public disclosure. That kills your way to patent it. And for example, if you're going to present it in a conference or as a speech or as a lecture or as a webinar or something, that becomes a prior art. Or if you're going to an exhibition or a trade show and you demonstrate your invention, or if you talk to there, that's also a public space. So basically that is also making the disclosure as a prior art. And it can be any language. For example, you have an invention, you have an idea, and you're talking in a train in Chinese language in China, that also becomes before disclosing your ideas. So the language doesn't matter, the type of disclosure doesn't matter. So the prior art is important in patenting procedure. So basically, before going to patent, you're checking what are the available prior art, whether those prior art are coming into the scope of the invention which you are going to patent. Yeah, and there are different ways you can get a patent as a territorial right. So it depends, advise you on the filing procedure or what strategy you should take to file a patent. So these are a common way, a national application. So basically you select the country and apply to the patent office of that country. There are also regional applications. You can do regional applications. This is like a group of countries, and they form a contracting agreement. And then if you have a regional application, then that once granted, that patent is valid in those group of countries. For example, European Union, the European Patent Office, and by EPC, there are certain number of contracting states involved, and then if you get an EP patent, European patent granted, then your patent is valid in the European region. So it's a regional application, and once granted, then you get your right in that region. So there are actually, for example, if I tell about European patent, you have 38, around 38 contracting states in the EU region, and you also have some validation countries. For example, some countries like Morocco or Tunisia or Cambodia, which have some validation agreements with the EPO. So you also get rights there. There are also some extension states which have some extra extension agreement with EPO. For example, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina. Those regions also, those territories also, you get your protection. So this is the advantage of a regional application. So you get with one application, you get a right in a specific region where you have business interest. Similar to the EU region, European region, you also have like a REPO, which is an African Regional Industry Property Organization. So you can have, if your business interest is in the African region, then you can have an application file in that specific region. Or you can have a Eurasian Patent Convention, so EA, so you can have a patent in that region. So that is a type of application you can do if you are interested in that. And another way is a quite popular way is filing an international application, which is also known as a PCT application, abbreviated as a Patent Cooperation Treaty. So the PCT system is it has two different phases, which is the first one is a quite international phase, and then followed by a national phase. So the advantage of this PCT type of international filing is that you have one filing which you can use to later enter into many different countries. For example, PCT has 153 contracting states. So basically you can enter into all these contracting states which are contracted to the PCT. If you look in the map, these are the countries which are blue in color. Yeah, you can see basically it's pretty much covers the whole globe, except few countries like Argentina, like Venezuela, or some African countries like Andorra. In Asia, like Taiwan, for example, is an important country, important region which is not part of the PCT. So except these few countries, pretty much a lot of countries are part of have contracted with the PCT. So if you have a PCT international application, once the international phase is over, you can decide which national countries you need to enter of this PCT contracting states. So you this one filing has quite a lot of advantage that you have. In the international phase, you have one prosecution, so you pretty much address all the objections during this phase. So when you enter into the national phase, you don't have to reiterate all these objections again for each country, because it's done in one international way. And then you can, when you enter into national phase, you can look into what are the national requirements. That's one thing. And it's a centralized procedure, at least in the international phase. And that also gives you quite a cost effective. And also, you have like 30 months period, which is like around a bit more than 2 years to decide which countries you want to enter. For example, when you have a seed idea of an invention, you think that, okay, quite a lot of countries are interesting for me. Like I have 50 countries in mind where I want to enter. But once you develop your idea, you think that maybe I don't need all these 50 countries. I will choose maybe 15 or to 10 of them. So you get this time, this 30-month period, you get the time to think which countries are interested for your business, and then you can decide based on that. So this can save quite a lot of money and time for you. So you can basically buy the time with the international PCT application. And also, if you get a positive opinion from the international prosecution of the PCT, then it's quite helpful in the national prosecution, because once the IB or the International Examining Committee has given a positive opinion, then that only speeds up your national procedure. So this is a way which a lot of companies prefer now filing an international application instead of choosing independent several national applications. Yeah. And usually a PCT application is pretty much similar to how you do a national application. You need to have a request that I need a PCT application. So you need a request, you have a form for that. You need to have a description of your invention. You need to have one or more claims. I don't know whether you know, the claims are the backbone of the patent. So the claims define the scope of the invention. So basically you have an invention and you want to protect it. So it's you can think of a house, and you are creating a fence around your house, and the more wider, the broader the fence. It's the claims also are crafted in such a way that you have more broader protection, because if you have a narrow scope, then it's a bit weaker. It's a weaker protection. So the claims which are written and granted in a broader way gives a more stronger protection to your invention. So you basically need claims, one at least, but then several, because if you only have one claim and that is rejected, then you don't have anything. So you need backup claims, so to later amend your claims. And then you need a drawing to explain your invention, especially in the patents in physics. They have several drawings to show different embodiments and different ways of how you can how you can make it, for example. And you also need an abstract. This is mainly for the publication purpose. So this is a typical international application timeline. It's highly procedure. I'm not going to explain all these things because it's too much nitty-gritty details. So I would just say that you basically, this is what many of the companies do. They file first a local national application in your home country. For example, if you have an invention, you do a local application in India. And then from 12 months from that date, you can claim priority to this date. So within 12 months from this first application, you file an international PCT application. This is an important deadline, because if you miss this deadline, then your invention become a prior art, and then you cannot protect it in different countries. So within 12 months, you file a PCT application, and then you have this international phase where you do the prosecution, where the examining committee is examining whether this is novel and inventive, and then they take a decision whether it's a positive or is it a negative. And within 30-month period, you basically can enter into different national phases based on this positive or negative IPRP. Because if it's a positive IPRP, you have less work, and if it's negative, you need to amend or modify based on your local first application. So yeah, this is basically the timeline typically companies or patentees do. This is how a typical such report from an from the PCT looks like. For example, when you apply for a patent to an examining committee, they look for prior art which are falling into the scope of this invention, and they come up with several different patent applications or articles or sometimes online sites or something, and they say basically whether it is a threat to a novelty of the invention or inventive step of the invention. So they basically come up this kind of such report, and then you have you get chance to have a dialogue with the examiner to kind of either to convince him or to amend your claims. Yeah, this is how the international phase is. I just quickly explained, and I'll bit explain how a regional procedure looks like, which is also quite similar. For example, I have taken the EPO, the European Patent Office, how the basic steps in a European grant procedure is. Basically, you have an invention, and the first step is you file it. You draft the claims, you draft the description, and you file it. And then European Patent Office has several examiners in several different fields. So they kind of search for prior documents, and then they do the examination, which can take several months to years. And then you kind of, the examining committee can say, no, this is not new or this is not inventive, because already an existing document is there. So you kind of either argue with the examiner saying that, no, my invention is different. It's not similar to the prior document you cited, but it's different in this way. So you basically argue with the examiner and then try to put your argumentations. Or if the prior documents which is found by the examiner is killing the novelty or the inventive step of your invention, you kind of reduce the scope so that the prior art falls outside the scope of your invention. So you basically do this in several steps. So usually you get a report from the examiner, you try to argue, and then the examiner, okay, these are fine, but then I have found a new objections, and then he sends that, and this goes in several steps. And once, usually in my practice, in 3, 4, 5 steps, we try to reach in a position which is good for the patent. But if it is not happening, then it's called for an oral proceedings, where you have a direct live conversation with the examiner, where you can verbally or orally argue. Usually it is done in a courtroom in the European Patent Office. So you basically represent your client. You have it in a live conversation, or you can have it these days in video conference settings. So once this examination period is done, the patent can be granted or rejected. and then if it is granted, then there is a publication of the patent specification is being done. And from this grant, from this publication of the grant, from this moment, there is 9 months available for any third party or any opponent to come and oppose this granted patent. So if I have a patent granted and my competitor, if he thinks that this patent, I think this patent is infringing different prior art, then he can come and oppose that. So he has 9-month period to file these oppositions. So this is then the procedure goes to an opposition procedure, and after this opposition procedure, the patent is either revoked, which means it's killed, or it is maintained as granted, which means it's maintained without any change, or it is amended, or its scope is amended. So it can lead to in any of these 3 possibilities. And once opposition period is over, then you have an appealing period where, for example, if it's the patent is revoked or rejected, the patentee can appeal this decision. Or if the patent is maintained as submitted, then the third party opponent can appeal that decision. So it's an appealing procedure. Yeah, it looks simple, but it's not. It's a quite procedure. There are several steps involved. Yeah, this is basically a flow chart which is in the EPO website, which explain the procedure. Yeah, but I'm not going to go in detail of that. But if you want to know more detail, you can go to the Patent Office website, where it will be explained in detail. Yeah, so that's about the regional patent, and the national patent is a similar procedure, but then you only interact with a national office. So these are the different routes you can take if you want to have a patent, depending on the requirement of your business. Yeah, so that's about that. And I just want to say, there are like n number of patents available, and you might be thinking, where do I find these patents? How can I find them? There are several freely available websites. For example, if you go to the European Patent Office website, epo.org, you can find this ESPASnet. ESPASnet looks like this. You can do a quite smart and advanced search there. You can, for example, you want to find of a solar cell or a 3D print, or like a specific tool for doing a surgery. You can give keywords here. You can also do, if you know the publication number or an application number, you can type that. It's much more extensive than what I showed here. So you can also give classification numbers. For example, for each field, there is a classification number. So if you do the classification number, you get patents, all the patents of that field. So that's a way to access the prior art in this field. Similarly, the USPTO, the United States Patent Office, also has a quite advanced database, the USPTO pair system. So you can go there and search for your patents there. Similarly, the WIPO. Does anyone of you know what WIPO is? Yeah, WIPO is one of the agency of the United Nations. It's one of the 15 specialized agency of the United Nations, and it is created to, it's a World Intellectual Property Organization. So this is created to promote and protect the IP across the world, and then it has cooperations with different countries, and different organizations to get to be kind of coordinate the world intellectual property. So WIPO is headquartered in Geneva in Switzerland, and it has several other offices. So if you go to WIPO website, you also have a quite extensive database called Patent Scope. You can also search there. And another way is go to Google Patents. So Google has also a good database. So Google Patents, and then you can also search there. So this is how you can find, if you're interested, you can find patents in that field. Yeah, and one thing I thought is interesting to share with you is WIPO has a quite good e-learning center. It has a WIPO Academy. They organize several courses a year. Many of them are distant learning courses, so you can do it at the comfort zone of your home, especially in this period. It's quite normal. So WIPO organizes summer schools where you can participate. They do it in different languages, in different countries, and they have several different learning programs. For example, one of the course I would recommend might be interesting for some of you is this general course on intellectual property. It's a DL101 course. So if you, they don't do it often, but every year they do it 1 or 2 times. So you register, then you can download the material. Anyone can do it, like irrespective of the age. So you can follow all their online lectures, and then they have an exam at the end, and you get a certification from WIPO. So yeah, I think that's a good it's a good one. I would recommend. It can add value to our CV if you do that. And they also have an e-learning center, so you can go and browse their courses. Yeah, so I would recommend checking their website. And also they have job vacancies, so might be interesting for some of you. Yeah. And I would a bit touch on the patent profession now. You know a bit about what a patent is and how you can file it, and what value it adds to a business. Professions associated with it. One is a patent examiner. These are technical jobs. Actually, in a patent office, for example, Indian Patent Office, European Patent Office, USPTO, the American or the Chinese Patent Office, they need examiners. So they have specific categories, for example, medical devices or optical instrumentation. So these kind of categories, and they have specialized examiners who will examine the inventions or the applications which are filed to that field. So that is a profession, patent examiner. Basically, they check the applications that you file as an inventor, and then they check for prior arts, and then they kind of send their objections, and yeah, that's typically that role. Different countries have different criteria to apply for this position. For example, in European Union, in EPO, a patent examiner should have at least a master's degree in science and should be able to talk 3 languages, English, German, and French, fluently, and they are able to argue in these 3 languages fluently. And so different countries have different criteria for this examiner. Another profession is that of a patent attorney. I'm doing that. Attorneys are basically, it's also dependent on different countries. For example, if you are talking about a patent attorney in US, this attorney has a science degree as well as a legal degree. So they have for example, an LLB plus an engineering degree or a science degree. So it's a combination. For example, if you're talking about a patent attorney in Europe, it's mostly a technical you have a strong technical background, like a master's or mostly PhD in science or in engineering, and then later you do in-house training of around 3 to 4 years, where you learn the legal side. So that's a patent attorney, and the patent attorney can be it can be in two settings. One is an in-house position. In-house position means you can be in the patent attorney of a company. For example, a company like Philips, they have an in-house department, and then they have some attorneys. They only do patent related stuffs only for physics. And like company like Tata Steel, they have an IP department and they do only for them. And company like Unilever or Hindustan Lever in India, they do IP only for that company. That is one job profile. And then you can also be in a private practice, which is like a law firm. So in a law firm, what you do is like you are an attorney, and the client can be any company. So Monday you're doing a patent prosecution for a company A, and then Tuesday you're doing for a company B. So it can be, you can do depending on your client. You can, it can be quite a variation in technologies as well. Yeah, that is a interesting profession. You also have patent agents, because it's also a bit like an attorney, but then you don't have a legal degree in that case. So the patent agent is it's, for example, in US, if you don't have a legal degree, you are a patent agent. It's only a science degree required for that. You don't need a legal degree. For example, India has patent agents. So different countries have different criteria to become a patent agent. They have mostly the patent officers have exams, and then you need to qualify those exams, and then you will be a certified patent agent for that patent office. In addition to that, you can also have like patent engineers, which are also, I have seen in companies, they basically also talk with inventors and bit more technical, but then be in projects and then try to filter out inventions which are potentially patentable, and then talk with inventors, talk with attorneys, and kind of an intermediate role. In addition to that, you also have several formality officers. They do the procedural sides, like how to file, to check the deadlines, and then to do the translation. There are language requirements for different countries, fees requirements, which date you need to enter, all these formality procedural works. That is quite a formality work. So this is a typical main patent professions, I would say. A typical patent attorney day, in my practice, I would say I do quick search. For example, if a client comes with an invention, I do a quick search for them, and to see a quite dirty diagonal search to see whether it's really worth patenting or it's already existing, and I do it with the clients. That's a part of work. We also do quite a lot of client visits to check and talk with the clients, like what are not only the technical side of the project, but also the business requirements, why they want to patent, what their long-term goals with this patent, why they want to do it. So that part. I also attend quite a lot of courses, especially when I was doing my training. Attending and continuation of your education is part of this one. And typically you do quite a lot of drafting. So as I told, the claims and the description, the claims are the backbone, and the description is also quite important. Basically, theoretically, anyone can write a patent, but I would say it's a bit like if you want to do a surgery on your hand, you can do it yourself, or you can ask a specialist doctor to do it. And what will you do? You will ask a doctor to do the surgery, not yourself. So it's a bit like that. You can also draft your claims, but that will be, if you don't know the nitty-gritty details, the legal aspects, the linguistic aspects, then it will be doing a surgery on your body yourself. So basically, we help drafting to have a maximum protection, maximum broadest possible protection, and to be clear and unambiguous to the so we help in that. That's a major part of the work. And we also help in the prosecution of this invention. So basically the dialogues which we do with the examining committee in the patent office. So basically representing your client to talk with the examiner and then to present your argumentation so that you get a strong patent. So we help in that. And we also represent the clients in opposition. It can be an opposition representation for the opposition for the patentee or for a third party. So these are the typical works we do, but it's also much more than this. So it's it's basically what I wanted to say. I know that it's a quite it's a very very peripheral topic, because in 45 minutes you cannot go into all this procedure, which is quite dry and with nitty-gritty details. But this is basically which I want to say, to have an impression on how the patenting system is, how this job is, how the daily how the daily work is. This is what I wanted to present.
Anybody have any questions or any doubts? Please, you may ask now. It's a time for discussion. Hope all of them can understand the concept. I think so. Anybody have any doubts?
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Amal. I'm from Rajagiri Social Science College, Kalamashiri. So I wanted to ask that in a lot of business reality shows and competitions like Shark Tank and all, the people come with new inventions, and they say that their patent is, they have not received patent yet, but they are still waiting for it. So in that case, they have already disclosed it in front of a national television. So wouldn't that be stated as a prior art then?
Yeah, that's a good question. The holy grail in patent procedure is getting a filing date. So as I understand, they might be saying is that they have a filing date. So they already filed it. They have not they have not yet got the grant, but they already have a filing date. So the prior art is decided anything before the filing date. So if you disclose after getting a filing date, it's okay. So I think the situation which you mentioned now is where they already filed it, so they got a date, but they haven't done all the procedure to get it granted. So in that, if that is the case, it's okay. And some countries also have a grace period. For example, US has a 1 year grace period. Even if you disclose, you have 1 year grace period. If you prove that it's your own invention, you have a 1 year grace period to file it. Not all countries have. For example, Europe, you don't have any grace period. If you disclose it, it's gone if you haven't filed it. For example, Japan, you have 6 months grace period, and in Australia also, I think, have a 6-month grace period. So some countries you still can get a grace period, but in many other countries, if you disclose it, And if you haven't filed it, if you don't have a filing date, it's a prior art. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello. I have developed one psychometric instrument or scale as a part of my PhD. Take patent for the scale.
You can patent if it is new and if it is inventive. Yeah, these are the two things you need to check. Do you think you need to check the prior art? Okay, one thing is, have you disclosed it? No, then it could be patentable. And then you need to check what is the existing prior art. Is it novel? Just try to do a quick search with the websites which I showed, like SPASNet or USPTO or even Google patent search. Try to see what are the existing prior art, and then to see whether your invention comes in the scope of that one. So check whether it is novel and check whether it is inventive. For example, if you must say to document, does it read your invention? Yeah, if you fall through these criteria, it could be patentable. What you can also do is to approach a patent agent who is practicing in Indian jurisdiction to see to check with him whether it is patentable. So they can also give you a tailored advice on the patentability of your invention.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. So hope let's wind up our session. The feedback link is already provided. Just fill in the feedback link and you will get the certificate. Okay. So I would like to invite Dr. Sefia KM, Coordinator, International Webinar on Filing International Patent for vote of thanks. Ma'am, please.
Good evening. In this occasion, it is my duty to express a hearty vote of thanks to all. First of all, I express my gratitude and sincere thanks to our beloved principal, Dr. A. Biju, who is the backbone of all the events organized by our institution. From the bottom of my heart, I express my gratitude and sincere thanks to you, sir. Thank you. Then I express my sincere thanks to Dr. Shahina Abdullah, who is a great personality today. Her sincere attitude towards the program and her traits and excellency to the subject for sharing our participants. On behalf of MES Asmabi College and my own behalf, I express sincere thanks to Madam. Thank you very much. Then I express my gratitude to our beloved HOD, our shining star of the department, Dr. Prince Ma'am. I express our sincere thanks. Then all the success of the program is the participants, and then the participants from other countries like Netherlands, Finland, Pakistan, etc. I express our sincere thanks to all the participants who are assembled here for participating and interacting this session. Then I express my gratitude to the outstation participants from Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Kashmir, Tamil Nadu, Punjab, etc. And the faculties from various institutions, research scholars from both inside and outside Kerala. I express my sincere thanks to you all. Then I also express my gratitude to our colleague, our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Shafir, Deepa ma'am, Tiny, Tansila teacher, and Najibud sir, my all beloved students. Thank you once again. Thank you for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your valuable time. Thank you, Shahina ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you again.
So you can leave the meeting now. Ma'am, you can leave now. Shahina ma'am.